What's the difference between living for the moment and building a better future? Between experience and structure, art and science? My guest today is Alan Lazaros, entrepreneur, coach, podcaster, and systems thinker, and real hard worker who approaches life by reverse engineering outcomes and then taking disciplined, consistent action towards them. You don't just stumble into health, wealth, love, and meaning. You create it. This is my conversation with Alan Lazaros. So it seems there are at least two big lenses or goggles through which to view reality, to understand what is reality and how to therefore live your life. One you can call objectivity, where you're measuring and optimizing everything using logic and numbers and science and math and stuff. And then there's this other side, I guess you could say, the sort of more subjective world where things aren't really countable or quantifiable. You're more just focusing on the lived experience, the feeling, the emotion, these things that can't or don't seem to be able to be measured or quantified. Things like beauty and love and passion and awe. And I guess throughout my life and throughout a lot of our lives, we might fluctuate between these two lenses, focusing on, say, hey, this is how we live. We should optimize our life the way that it seems that you're doing now. And there's this other side where it's like, no, let's stop all the tracking. Let's not count anything. Let's just focus on, the present experience and get into our body and all of that kind of stuff. Basically, I want to understand your journey through this process of, I know you've always been good at math, and right now you're quite good at optimizing things in your business and working hard. And it seems you're really far on that side of the extreme, which might be the way to go. But then sometimes I'm thinking, I don't know, I kind of like this just not tracking everything kind of mode, just throwing away all those habit tracking apps and the smart watches and everything, and just sitting there in nature doing nothing or something. But yeah, I'm curious about your journey through all this. Have you always been this sort of optimizer, this measure, this mathematician, or was this something that kind of changed and ebb and flowed throughout your life?
I love this already. Thank you so much for having me. This is a great way to start. I was at a Leonardo da Vinci exhibit in Asheville, North Carolina. We went to a place called the Biltmore, and they do sort of exhibits every so often. And one of them was Leonardo da Vinci. And there was one quote that I loved from him, which was studying the science of art and the art of science. And I loved the play on words there. And so science and art, what is the difference? And I had a friend of mine I grew up with, and he became a director, and he did a bunch of short films and one feature film. And he said, Alan, if everyone was like you, this world would be very boring. And what he meant by that is I'm very engineer. I'm very conscientious. I'm very statistics. I'm very logical. I'm very rational. My favorite book ever written is Rationality by Steven Pinker. And the truth of the matter is, I actually think obviously it's both. I think one of the main reasons why life is so challenging is because all of us are on one side of the spectrum, and it's always an and. One side of the spectrum says be present and enjoy the present moment, and the other side of the spectrum says learn from the past and build a bigger, better, and brighter future. And obviously it's both. And it's not work smart or hard. It's and. It's the genius of the and. It's work smart and work hard, because a lot of times you don't work smart until after you work hard and beat your head against the wall for a while. So to answer your question originally, have I always been this way? I think I've always had a natural inclination and interest toward the more rational. And I can't tell if that's inborn or if it's because I grew up in an environment that was extremely irrational, that the only way I knew how to differentiate myself was through long-term strategic thinking. And I'm very, 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 very much on the high end of rationality, future orientation, reverse engineer the finish lines, make sure you only get one life, so make sure you design it in advance. And there's that quote of not all those who wander are lost by J.R.R. Tolkien in Lord of the Rings. And the truth is most people who wander actually are lost. And as I've grown and evolved, I'm 37 now, and I've sort of at this point spent 11,761 hours. I have it. It's called my magic number. It's up on my whiteboard right over here. And with people all over the world, coaching, training, and podcasting. And so you meet people from all different industries, all different cultures, all different backgrounds, and you realize over time that yes, obviously art and science both matter. However, the majority of the population is too far on the non-structured, non-disciplined, carefree wandering side. And unfortunately, a lot of the things that they actually want in life, like health, wealth, and love, are actually a byproduct of a lot more structure.
Yeah. Well, I guess the good thing is we're not just these solitary individuals. Usually we work together. So I guess that's where we team up or we work together with maybe the other side, and maybe as a team we are balanced.
Well, Kevin and I, my business partner, he would say this, directly to you, directly to anybody. He says this on our show publicly all the time. He says, "I wouldn't have been successful without Alan." And what he really means is I was too far on the art side. He is someone who's very emotionally driven, very experience driven. I always make a joke. I say, if him and I go into a coffee shop together, I'm concerned about the milligrams of caffeine I'm going to get for productivity, and he cares about what tastes good. And the truth of the matter is, the majority of the population, statistically speaking, is very experience driven. The problem is most of the experiences that they want to create and sustain, like health, wealth, and love, or financial freedom, and all those things, are actually, like I mentioned, a byproduct of disciplines that it's this weird paradox of life where the things that are really hard to do and frustrating and challenging in the present are actually what ultimately brings more financial freedom, which is what buys a lot of great experiences and high quality of life that a lot of people want. So it's this weird paradox where you can pay now and play later, or you can play now and pay later, and most people are on the play now and pay later. Otherwise, credit card companies would certainly go out of business.
Okay, so maybe we could lay out some of the, I don't know, pros and cons of each of these extremes, starting with, yeah, what are the limits or downsides of being too experience driven? You already touched on it, but let's dig deeper into that.
It's a long list. So one of them is lack of longevity. So the average life expectancy globally is 78 right now. It's a little higher. I think it's 79 for women, 78 for men. Last I looked it up, it's probably a little higher now. But I think the first downside to the experience driven part is just the fact that we live a lot longer now. So if you study evolution, or you study, there's a bunch of great books. One's called Sapiens. One is called The Story of the Human Body by Daniel Lieberman. These books really articulate the evolution of our species, and they help us realize that the majority of our time on this planet as Homo sapiens has been, a very, very short life expectancy compared to, like, our ancestors didn't have to worry about retirement type of thing. And so unfortunately, if you study game theory and constraint theory and chaos theory and all these different math modalities, you realize that life in a sense is a game, but it's not a finite game, it's an infinite game. There's also a great book called The Infinite Game by Simon Sinek. And while I'm not a huge fan of him necessarily, I think the book is magnificent. And I don't dislike him either. I just don't associate with people anymore. Too many of them have let me down. But the book is phenomenal. And the downsides of being experience driven is, on the macro front, is you're basically pleasure driven and short term reward driven in a game that is far beyond. It's basically, you have seconds, minutes, hours, days, weeks, months, quarters, years, and decades, and that leads to your lifetime. And you only get one lifetime. We all do, and that lifetime is on average 78 years. And so you're basically wired in a way where short term pleasure is what the brain is focused on, short term survival and pleasure, in a game that has really expanded. And so the people who win, quote unquote, the game of life, it all depends on what the purpose of life is, which is, in my opinion, meaning and improving your quality of life over time, and growth and contribution. And ultimately, all of those are games that you can only really win at in the long term thinking front. So I think that the way most people are wired in the experience driven side actually makes a lot of sense if we only lived short lives. And that's actually one of the reasons why I try really hard to promote my side of things. It's not because I think my way is the right way. It's more because I know that in the 21st century, my way is more optimal given the time perspective of the majority of human being living long on this planet.
Right, it's sort of the nutrient that's lacking in a lot of people's diet, so I guess someone needs to supply it. But there's also this assumption that you're making, well, seems you're making, but you're going to clear it up, that these people who are experience driven are also hedonistic or pleasure driven, or they're sort of zombie like going through life. But there are these people who are not measuring anything, but they're just happy, content with what is. Imagine these people who are these meditators, or these kind of yogis living in nature, or someone who just feels like life is enough as it is. What more do I need? What's the point of chasing this success, growing my podcast, or making money, or what this or that? Like, this is good. I'm good. So what do you say about these people?
I think there's a lot of merit in being grateful for where you are and grateful for what you have. I think if you have your health at a very high level, I think you're already winning. And there's this concept called hormesis. Anyone can look this up in the scientific literature. You can ChatGPT this, Google it, whatever you want. But essentially, what it describes is that a little bit of a bad thing is actually a good thing. And this is like a tough workout. So a tough workout that really challenges you, it forces your biochemistry and your brain and your body to adapt, because your body, brain, central nervous system, peripheral nervous system doesn't know that you're in a well-lit gym that's totally safe. Your biology thinks, okay, I have to know how to lift these things and do these activities because I need those for survival. So fitness, I was a fitness model, fitness competitor, fitness coach for a long time. And fitness is not just physical fitness, but mental fitness and emotional fitness and psychological fitness and spiritual fitness. So unfortunately though, the human body, brain, the human condition does not adapt unless you force it to. And unfortunately, the meditators are not really forcing physical adaptation, although they definitely are mentally. And so I'm all for meditation, but if you want, so there's 4 parts of our nature. There's physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual. And if you want to be the best version of yourself, you basically have to constantly work on all 4 of those. Like, so for example, I have a therapist named Carol. I was an engineer. I mean, I didn't, aspire to have a therapist. Like, that was not it for me. But now I realize, okay, so I have to be emotionally fit and physically fit and mentally fit and spiritually sound. And if I do, now I am more capable of adding value into the world, and therefore I will also be reimbursed for that in proportion to the skills and the problems I solve for people. But ultimately, I think that for people who are more present oriented and experience driven, it comes down to that very simple Jim Rohn quote. Jim Rohn's a personal development speaker, and he basically says, if you don't need much, you don't have to become much. And that's not to say that everyone who has big goals is a good person either. That's not at all what I'm saying. What I am saying is all of us, whether we like to admit it or not, are a byproduct of our goals. And then this brings to question the curiosity of contemplation of, well, why doesn't everyone have big goals? And the answer is kind of convoluted, but what I've got it boiled down to, because I've been trying to figure that out my entire life, it's, well, okay, so in order for us to become better, we actually have to challenge ourselves. And there's 2 ways to challenge yourself. You can actually set a goal that the journey that you embark on toward that destination, that goal forces challenge, which then creates growth and contribution. And now you have something of value to give because now you become more, which is kind of like the hero's journey type of thing. And then on the other side is just massive adversity that happens to you. And so I had, growing up, a lot of adversity happening to me that was not by choice. And then in tandem, my trauma response to that, in hindsight, I just know this now, I didn't know this at the time, was to aim higher, work harder, and get smarter. So basically, my response to challenge was more challenge. And I didn't really understand that. But then the question becomes, well, why did some of the people I grew up with not respond that way? And Kevin, my business partner's thesis is that they didn't believe in themselves. And it's like, okay, well, why did I believe in myself? And I got it boiled down to understanding. So if everyone out there right now, like, really did actually understand exactly how to build let's say $1 million of wealth, which is totally doable. There's more than 58 million millionaires on planet Earth. Now, obviously, it depends where you live, quality of life. which government, like I understand there's 195 countries, like not everyone can just do that like easily. But the point is theoretically, in theory, not practice, it is possible for anyone to build financial wealth. If that's the case, okay, well then why aren't we all doing it? I think it's because not all of us know how to do it. It's okay, well why do not all of us know how to do it? Well, there's two sides of this coin. On one side, it's the responsibility of your institutions and the parents and teachers and mentors to teach it. But on the other side, it's also your responsibility to go learn it, right? A lot of these books are available on the internet for free now, and it's your prerogative to actually read them. But then it's like, well, a lot of them are full of crap. So how do you wean through all the crap? And it's like, well, trial and error in the scientific method. So for me, it's very hard for me. One of my book club members, her name is Bonnie. She said, Alan, one of the reasons you struggle sometimes to be empathetic is because you had a worse childhood than the majority of people, and you had to figure it out on your own. So you don't understand why other people don't do that. And at the end of the day, that is statistically true. And I've confirmed that with my therapist for sure. But at the end of the day, to me, all that matters is that we are all, as leaders, like teaching these things. So at least then it's a choice. Because the truth of the matter is, it's not a choice until you know it's an option, but you don't know it's an option until someone teaches you it or until you stumble across knowledge. And that's why they say knowledge is power. But then it's like, well, is knowledge power? Is knowledge only potential power? And the truth is that depends on who has the knowledge and then whether or not you deploy skills in tandem with that knowledge toward a goal. So it gets very convoluted very quickly. And I think the only wrong thing to do is to kind of sit back and just do less, be less, become less, have less. Like when you want for something, at least it gets you started. And then most of the things that you thought you wanted, you realize later on, as a grown man or woman, that it's like, oh, okay, so some of that was rooted in ego. And now that I've actually become the man who can actually achieve it, I no longer even want it. And it was never about that anyway, but it was about the journey that I had to embark on in order to achieve that destination. Because the last thing I'll say before I kick it back to you is people always say it's about the journey, but that's crap. The destination you choose in advance dictates the journey. It's a very different journey 30 minutes south of where I live to, drive across the country. And if you don't set a goal that forces you to embark on an epic journey, you pretty much won't grow and you won't figure out what you're really capable of, which I think is really devastating.
What are some of the big criticisms you receive, and how do you respond to these? Some of them might just be people rationalizing their easy life, but some of them might have a point. So let's talk about some of those.
Yeah, so the main criticisms I receive, and I love the candid conversation, brother, and I can always tell in someone's energy when they are actually curious versus an attack. So I appreciate it. Your curiosity, I think, is great. So the things that I get villainized for or kick back on are I work every day. I got in a car accident when I was 26. I'm 37 now, so 11 years ago. And my dad died in a car when he was 28 years old and when I was 2 years old. And so that was in 1991. And in 2015, I got in a car accident, my fault, head on collision. And fortunately, no one was killed, because if so, that would have been entirely my fault. I crossed the double yellows, wrong side of the road, and fortunately, we were okay physically. But mentally, emotionally, and spiritually, I was completely shattered because, this is the second chance my dad never got. And so I decided 11 years ago that my biggest regret was not putting it all on the court. And I was very successful. I was a global 1% earner and all that stuff. I did the traditional path of preschool, kindergarten, elementary school, middle school, high school, college, corporate, the typical quote unquote American dream. Obviously, I was born and raised in Massachusetts, so I'm speaking just from the American perspective, and I did very well with that. But the truth is in myself, my truth, whether anyone else knows it or not, is I definitely was squandering my potential. I wasn't as healthy as I could be. I wasn't improving myself as much as I could. I wasn't trying as hard as I could. And so a lot of the criticism that I get, I think, is two things to your point. One frame is they are rationalizing not reaching their full potential, and I make them uncomfortable because I actually am doing all I can with all I have now. And I think that that's very uncomfortable to be around. Uh, the second one, to your point, is maybe some of them actually are more fulfilled, and their path is not to maximize their full potential. Like the truth is, and this is something I've been thinking about a lot, and I've been saying this too, because if they understood the math of 0.1% improvement per day compounded over time, I've done the numbers on this. If you put $1 on a financial calculator and you grow it by 0.1% per day for 50 years, you end up with $84 million rounded up. It's 83 something and rounded up. It's past 83 million.5. And if you take weekends off, which most people do, aka you just don't improve on the weekends, it ends up being 439,000. So if there's two people and one of them improves by 0.1%, so 0.1%, so 0.1% per day for 50 years, and they get a little smarter each day, they work a little harder each day, they get a little more effective each day, they eliminate, automate, delegate, procrastinate, some nonsense a little bit each day, and they get better tools and better speeds and better, right? They get a little better each day. And the other person does too, but they take the weekends off. And that's assuming they don't get worse on the weekends, which I certainly was doing in college, getting worse on the weekends. Then they end up with 191 times less the outcome. Now, the question becomes, well, why do outcomes matter so much? Outcomes matter because outcomes are the things that we chase. Health is an outcome. It's a byproduct. It's an effect, not a cause. I am healthy and I'm very grateful for that, but it's because of all the things that I do in sleep, hydration, nutrition, training, mobility, breathwork, supplementation. So I do get it. Life is very complex. We oversimplify it. We try our best. Even on this episode, I'm confusing a lot of people. But life is a game that's very hard to master. There's infinite chess pieces with infinite chess moves. It's an infinite game, and we treat it like a finite game, which is why we're losing. And I think that the only wrong answer is to not contemplate what fulfills you and what means a lot to you. Because ultimately, people think people are selfish or selfless and all this stuff. I think that being selfless is a luxury because the only people who can truly be selfless are the people who first have their own needs met. And so at the end of the day, you got to figure out for you what your unique flavor of success actually looks like. And if you look up success, it doesn't mean being wealthy. Success means the ability to consistently and sustainably produce the outcomes that you want in life. And that is actually an equation. It's an equation. And that equation depends on what you want. But if you don't know what you want, you'll never aim at it and you can't hit a target you don't have. So hopefully that answers your question. But I get a lot of criticism about workaholic. I get a lot of criticism about, well, I don't really want to get better every single day. Like I get a lot of criticism about, well, you're going to regret your life that you didn't enjoy it and all this stuff. And the truth is I have been on both sides of this. I didn't put it on the court before and I regretted it. So maybe it's unique to me, but I guarantee you some of these are principles that apply to everybody. And I think that the intensity, frequency, density, and all of that I apply them is probably unique to me, but I don't think the principles are unique to me. I think the principle of growth and contribution and quality of life and profitability and finance and fitness and love and how that all works, vulnerability, courage, humility, like these things are not unique to me. The intensity at which I deploy them is definitely unique to me.
It does make sense. It's maybe not even a difference between these two modes. You're just being more strategic about it because, yeah, they're saying you're not enjoying your life, and they might imagine that you're just this machine. Listening to a few of your episodes at first, I was like, "Ooh, who is this? What does he have feelings? Does he actually enjoy his life? Does he actually can he just be content with what is?" But then you keep listening, and you're like, "Okay." And I guess my point here is naturally the easy thing is just to have that other side that you're not focusing on, that that presence and that relaxation and rest, whatever pleasure. The hard part is doing the work and taking the action. So might as well focus on that because that other stuff's just going to happen in the background, I imagine. I mean, you're still like, having these, you're still experiencing beauty and love and all this what seems immeasurable, you're still sleeping, you're still relaxing here and there. I mean, it just naturally falls into place. I think that's just how the body works. So maybe you can clear up that confusion, or maybe you are just a machine who just runs 24/7. But my point here is you're being strategic, focusing your energy at this certain times in your life now. Maybe, and again, maybe when you're 70, that's when you're like, okay, let's chill. I don't know, but you're full of energy. You're in your mid 30s, your prime. So I guess there's 2 points here. One is, yeah, are you still experiencing all of these things that maybe people think you're not? And how does that emerge? Is it more deliberate, or does it just sort of just fall into place? Because I mean, it's just so easy. It's just there. And then two is, yeah, maybe you can imagine. Do you think you'll live like this forever, or maybe there will be a point when you're old and you can just chill and you can have an amazing badass life.
Yeah, so my beautiful girlfriend and future wife Emilia got me to she's opened my eyes to so many things, and I her, but at one point she used the metaphor. If you've ever seen the second Hunger Games movie and or book, I've never read the books, but I saw the movies and I loved them. And I'm a big film guy. I love film, the hero's journey, all that kind of stuff. But the second movie where there's the arena, the clock that moves, if you know what I'm referencing. If you don't, there's basically an arena with a clock that moves, and it basically the whole arena shifts every hour. And Emilia said that that is how life works, and this is kind of how I try to envision it now. So there's three modes that I'm ever in, and the truth, to answer your original question, is I am enjoying my life way more than anyone could imagine, because so when they hear, like, let's say you listen to the episode and I'm so intense and all this stuff, what you don't see is me dancing last night with my girlfriend, like, over the freaking moon. And yesterday was Sunday, and we went and saw Wicked 2 in IMAX, and we just had this magnificent day. And after a beautiful week of growth and contribution, I felt that at an even deeper level, because I'm, proud of who I'm becoming as a man and all that kind of stuff. So I think on one hand, there's no question that I'm enjoying my life way more than other people could possibly imagine. They just are seeing me coaching, training, and podcasting, which is a version of me that's very focused on productivity and growth and how to be better and systems and Pareto and all that stuff. The second piece of this is back to the clock metaphor, which is I have three main modes. One of them, three things that I think life is about. I think this is the formula for fulfillment, is what we call it: growth, contribution, and quality of life. Growth, contribution, and quality of life, in that order. So we teach this in our group coaching program. We've done 20 groups now, and it's a triad. It's on the bottom left of the triangle is growth, and whatever growth means to you, personal growth, personal, but maybe company growth too, like getting better. We'll call that getting better. Then number two is contribution, meaning using your getting better and your growth to contribute beyond yourself, because you can only feel so much by yourself. And this means contributing to you right now, your listeners, to my family, to humanity, all of that. Then beyond that, the next one is quality of life. The majority, so all of us have all three of these, but we have a code. So in group coaching, we do one is growth, two is contribution, three is quality of life, and the center is fulfillment. And fulfillment, I think, is ultimately what we're after. Like, the difference between pleasure and fulfillment is fulfillment sticks around longer than a moment. If I eat a donut, yeah, I'm going to have pleasure, but it's not going to fulfill me. And so growth, contribution, quality of life, 1, 2, 3. We all have all three, and we all need all three, but we all have a certain syntax, a certain order. So for me, it's growth first, which is mastery, personal growth, me reaching my full potential. It's me getting better at my craft first. Second is contribution. And third is quality of life. So Emilia got me to realize that I wasn't cranking that third one. I was basically just growth and contribution, growth and contribution, growth and contribution, growth and contribution. I wasn't cranking that third one. But I think the reason why is because that third one was way too much of a focus during my upbringing. In my upbringing, it was all about how much fun we could have. And I think I saw the long-term detriment of that mentality, that sort of pleasure-centered paradigm of life is about having as much fun as humanly possible. And trust me, I've lived in that for a while. It is atrociously bad long-term. even though it looks awesome on the surface. And so now I try really hard to do growth, contribution, quality of life, growth, contribution, quality of life, growth, contribution, quality of life. And they all feed each other. If all you do is grow and never contribute, you're basically going to feel alone. If all you ever do is contribute and never grow, you're basically going to be a martyr and burned to the ground. And if all you do is grow and contribute, but you never increase your quality of life, you're basically not creating something profitable that also feeds you and your family as well. And so in business, in life, all of us have to figure out how to grow in our own uniqueness and then use that uniqueness to contribute like I'm doing right now, and then make sure that that's actually profitable so that my quality of life can improve. Because my quality of life behind the scenes is infinitely better than it's ever been. But a lot of people see me in front of the scenes and they go, wow, that must suck to always have to get better all the time. It's like, no, you have no idea how amazing it is to actually wake up in the morning next to the love of your life and to be financially free. And when I say financially free, what I mean is I work for that. And I think that, believe it or not, while I don't think anyone would want what it's taken of me to get here, I do think everyone wants to be healthier, wealthier, more in love. And so the last piece of this is I give speeches and I'll ask who here wants to be healthier, wealthier, and more in love. And this is me getting the audience to say, okay, I do want that. Okay, can we at least start there? And everybody's hand goes up. And then I say, okay, who here wants to master fitness, master finance, and master vulnerability, courage, and humility, which is what it is required to be in love? And not every hand, but most hands go down. And the truth of the matter is, if you really can get this, you can be healthy, wealthy, and in love for the rest of your life, more and more and more. If you master fitness, finance, and humility, courage, and vulnerability, you can be healthier, wealthier, and more in love for the rest of your life. But the things we want are a byproduct of the things we don't. So I call it the want, love, hate framework. I want more clients. I love one-on-one coaching, and I hate social media. So guess what I have to master in order to get more clients? And again, another example I use. I want to be in better shape. I love weight training, and I hate dieting. I hate it. So guess what my bottleneck is? Dieting. We all have to do things we hate. You have to. And if you keep telling yourself a story you don't, trust me, you're going to, on the other side of everything we want in life is the thing we're afraid of, or the thing we hate, or the thing we've told ourselves a story we shouldn't have to do because we're entitled. And that's the want, love, hate framework. I've never found anyone who doesn't have something they want on the other side of something they hate that they aren't yet doing.
It seems we need more than one mode. Any one of those modes alone that you mentioned, contribution, growth, and fulfillment. I don't know. Maybe I'm getting them wrong.
Quality of life.
Quality of life. Yeah, one of them alone doesn't really work. I mean, I can't imagine it. Maybe you can think of it. But the core piece of a lot of this is the second part. You have growth, but then what for is the point? Okay, well, growth, I guess, for contribution and quality of life, or one or the other at least. But the contribution part seems to be a big one. Starting to view yourself as larger than yourself. Then I think the motivation can really rise. Thinking, oh, who do I love, or what do I love? Oh, well, these people or these things or whatever might, maybe they can use a little bit of help. So maybe it feels like a bit of a responsibility or something, but a good kind of responsibility of, oh, I can grow this kind of world that I love. I can change the world in this good kind of way. I can't be this selfish little thing anymore, just focusing on the present moment. Because in a way, I do really love these moments of, closing my eyes and being in nature and just relaxing. But who the hell am I helping besides myself there? If I had a family or some cause I really cared about, or my family was in trouble, like, I'm not going to be doing that. So, and we don't have to wait till the house is burning down, or people are in trouble. But finding something or someone outside of yourselves, that seems to be a big motivating point, even more than just the quality of life piece, for me.
What you're getting to, and I love this because you're an existentialist. That's why you do this. Existentialist, you can look up. It basically means you take personal responsibility for your own existence, and it means you constantly asking who, what, when, where, why. Like, your curiosity drives you, and you just want to. Emilia and I, when we first met 6 years ago, we had a joke. It was, I don't want to understand, I effing need to understand, right? And ultimately that curiosity drives us because it's taken me 37 years to figure a lot of this out. And some of it I found out the world already had the answers to, and I wasn't reading the right books. And some of it is actually new, genuinely new. I'm talking human consciousness new. That's been mind blowing for me. But that said, the thing that you got to is meaning. So meaning is art. So what's a good example? Okay, my business partner Kevin drives a $65,000 BMW. Okay, does he feel like a better version of himself when he gets in that car than some of his older cars? Yes, of course. But that's because of what that BMW means to him, consciously, subconsciously, and unconsciously. Another good example would be Wicked 2. I just went and saw it in IMAX. Whether you like the movies or not, or the play or not, or whatever, that movie meant a lot to me. It doesn't matter if it means a lot to anyone else. It means a lot to me. Objectively, it's a great film if you look at the structure and the science of storytelling, but also the meaning within it makes it good. Why? Because it moves you. Why? Okay, well, why does that matter? Because it helps you get in touch with yourself. Okay, well, why does that matter? Because when you're more in touch with yourself and your own goodness, you are less likely to be status and ego driven. And it also does a great job, I think, of making fun of status and nonsense. But at the end of the day, all of this comes down to meaning. I mean, why not just, and this is a hypothetical, of course, but like I orient my entire existence around meaning because I know what it feels like with meaninglessness. And again, I'm a 37-year-old American male, and I didn't meet Emilia until 6 years ago. So before that, I had other partners. And I remember sometimes I remember waking up next to someone, I'll keep it anonymous, of course. And I remember feeling like, okay, that was fun, but it doesn't mean anything to me. Like, this is not it for me. And until you know what it's like to wake up next to a man or woman or whoever and be truly fulfilled, like actually be like, this is the most meaningful experience I've ever had, you don't know what you're missing. And you're not going to stumble upon it. That's the problem. So it's almost like you have to believe it's out there. And I think faith, not religion, but faith is a belief in something that you cannot see yet. And then you working each day to learn how things work and why they work that way so that you can work them in your favor. True love does exist, but it's so unreasonably rare, and it's a formula. You can't just, trust me, I coach couples from all over the world. I've been doing it for coming up on 6 years. You don't just get to be in love. You have to grow it, and you have to cultivate it within yourself because you can't give away what you don't have. And you have to orient and be compatible with your partner, but also be good at trust and communication and humility and courage and vulnerability. And all of that takes time. Like, there are no wildly fulfilled high schoolers because high schoolers don't know anything. And that's okay. I didn't either, right? I was wildly unfulfilled in high school too. So unfortunately, learning how to be successful, healthy, wealthy, and in love, it takes a lifetime, but we don't necessarily have a lifetime to give to learn it. So you almost have to live with this, like, okay, I got to play the long game, but I have to have a sense of urgency where I don't waste any time. And so to me, I'm just trying to do all I can with all I have. And that's the best way you can simplify it. But that means you study every day. You try to keep an open mind, but not too open to the nonsense. And you really have to figure out your own unique sort of recipe or formula for what increases your level of fulfillment and meaning. And so back to meaning, I do think meaning at 37 years old, I can wholeheartedly say this. I do think meaning is always what human beings should be optimizing for, because I do think meaning brings fulfillment, and everything's subjective, right? I mean, the lowest quality of life that I have right now is better than the highest quality of life 300 years ago. And so obviously, if that's the case, I could wake up every single day and say, oh, well, I'm not good enough, and this isn't good enough, and I'm unfulfilled, and I'm unhappy, and I can't believe our podcast isn't more successful. Or I could wake up every day and go, okay, I'm the best I've ever been, but not as good as I'm going to be. My quality of life is the best it's ever been, not only in human history, but my own history. And I'm going to still try to make it better too. So I think it's that duality of I appreciate everything I am and everything I have, and I understand the bell curve of what I have in comparison to history and all of that. But also, I'm going to fight for what I believe in, which is getting better every single day, because there's also a ton of injustice in the world. So at the end of the day, you got to fight for a cause that's meaningful to you, that forces you to get up and be at your best, because none of us fire on all cylinders without something to fight for. And I don't mean fight in a negative way. I mean actually fight for, like, sticking up for what you believe in and being the change you wish to see in the world, and orienting your life and your world around meaning, I think, is the way to do that.
Yeah, and we probably each have to find our own things that we're going towards our own goals. But there might be some that are kind of general to the human species, or you found some trends in the people you're helping, or your own life. And the question is, yeah, for people who are just starting and they have maybe no direction. I guess the first part might just be somehow to figure out the direction, but that's a kind of a circular argument. But then, regardless of that, what are some metrics or things that people can track that generally are helpful to most people?
Yeah, so I think tracking is the best. People always ask me what's the best habit, and I always say it's a meta habit, which is habit tracking, and not just habits, but tracking in general. A really good one would be tracking your weight, so that you can keep that under control. Another one would be tracking your bank account, or tracking how much money you earn. So it really does depend on the goals, but there are some fundamentals. So what I would say, if someone's brand new, I would say try to track one metric underneath health that's really important to you. It can be sleep. So I track sleep. We call it a DEM score, deep sleep and REM. I have an Aura ring, and basically what we do is Emilia and I, we take, let's say I had an hour and 57 minutes of REM, and let's say I had an hour and a half of deep sleep. I would take 60 plus 60 plus 57 plus 30 and divide it by 60, and that would be my DEM score. And you don't have to do anything complicated like that. Aura actually gives you a score. They give you an 82 or an 85 or whatever. I have all my clients tracking metrics and habits, and a lot of them have Aura and they all track their sleep. And no, I don't get paid by Aura, by the way. But one under health, one under wealth, and one under love is a great place to start. So Emilia and I, we've been doing what's called the gratitude game. So every single night before we go to bed, even if we're not together, we text this or we audio it or we call each other. And we do 3 things we're grateful for about each other from that day. Now, these can be micro or macro. So they can be from that day, or they can be in general. Like, I'm grateful in general for the work you do in the world. And we try to be meaningful and specific with them. We try not to just say, well, you're really beautiful. I try to be specific. Like, I really loved the outfit you had on today. I really liked how you looked in the sunlight at that time. Like, I try to make them meaningful, because we orient our life around meaning. But yeah, so I would say one under health, one under wealth, and one under love is a great place to start. The problem is, if you don't really know what you want for your future, it's very hard to reverse engineer what you need to be doing now. So, last piece of this, because I know we got to jump in a minute. I got a client, and this has been phenomenal, Michael. I will come on again anytime you'd like. If you want to do a round 2, just say the word. This has been awesome. So, I have this thing written on my whiteboard downstairs, and this is something we call systems thinking. And we didn't invent it. It's just something that I kind of tried to simplify a lot of the stuff. So there's a book called The Goal. There's constraint theory and targeting the constraint and all kinds of stuff, Six Sigma, all this. But really what it comes down to is systems thinking is this idea of inputs, outputs, measure, and adjust. So if you picture a rectangle, the upper left part is inputs. The inputs for human beings is what you say, think, do, feel, and believe. And then that's the causes. The effects are the outputs. So the upper left is inputs. The upper right, imagine you're looking at a rectangle on a piece of paper. Upper left is inputs. Upper right is outputs. Bottom right is measure. And bottom left is adjust. And it's a rectangle. And in the center, you just write systems thinking. And the idea is you got to figure out what outputs you want, and then reverse engineer the inputs. And then you use the scientific method to measure and adjust, measure and adjust. So for example, on this episode, I've been articulating things in a different way than I've ever done before, because I'm trying to experiment with different ways to try to make things land. And I'm going to listen back when this launches and see if I think it's garbage or not. And Obviously, it's not going to be garbage. It's great. But this is the way I see it. I'm Allen version 3.7, and Allen version 3.8 next year better be better. I want to be a more effective communicator. I want to be a more effective leader. I want to get better at articulating hard concepts in a simple way that makes it land for people so they can understand. Because I think understanding is the root of self belief. And I think self belief is the root of goals. And I think goals are the root of getting better. And I think getting better makes us all better. So, yeah, that's what I would end with, which is start with health, wealth, and love. Pick one thing to measure under each, and then just keep it up and let it evolve as you do. Because I started Kevin out with 5 habits 7 years ago, and now he tracks metrics, goals, habits. I mean, his tracker is wild. It's a spreadsheet that he uses every day now, and he's a very successful man. So we started out small and we just let it build, and you'd be amazed what you're capable of when you stick with something long term.
Great, and if people can't wait for our next conversation, there's plenty of your content online. You have over one episode per day, it seems like. So there's thousands of those, and there's a lot more. So yeah, where do you recommend people go if they want to sort of continue this conversation?
Yeah, thank you. If I have not scared anyone away yet, that is a very good sign. The truth of the matter is, Next Level University podcast, spelled just like it sounds, it's supposed to be 0.1% improvement in your pocket from anyone on the planet, completely free. And we do an episode every day, to your point. And the reason why is, you brush your teeth every day, you take a shower every day, you should be able to get better every day. And when you get better every day, you'd be amazed how much better your life gets. And no hyperbole. That is a thing. And so we show up every day, and our listeners do too. And what I would say is, if you have high work ethic and you have high humility and you have a high self improvement orientation, you're going to absolutely love me, Kev, everything we do. If you want big rewards for minimal effort, you're not going to like us at all, um, because we both came from very, very humble beginnings and didn't have dads growing up. His dad left when he was born, and my dad died, and then I had a stepdad who left at 14, and we both bootstrapped. No generational wealth, no trust funds. Like, we bootstrapped our lives, and we don't really hang with anybody who wants big rewards for minimal effort, not necessarily because they're bad people, but because that's just not our forte. So if you want to be homegrown, organic, start from scratch and really build yourself and whatever you do in the world from scratch, we are definitely the place to come. But we're an acquired taste, and we're definitely not for everybody. And what I would just say is, if you do work with or listen to our podcast, like, we really do treat it like a family. Like, I think community and belonging and human connection matter a lot. I know my book club members I know deeply them. I know them deeply. I could name them all by name. My clients, same deal. So, we're definitely doing it different. We're not trying to reach, the masses overnight with very little effort. And we have a really cool community. We got sub communities and communities, fitness group, all kinds of stuff. So thank you so much, Michael, for having me. I really appreciate it. And I will come back, like I said, anytime. This has been a great conversation, and you've certainly helped me learn how to articulate things in a more powerful way.
Thank you. This is a very beautiful, a sort of meaningful experience for me. So yeah, thank you for that, and yeah, I'm looking forward to when we meet again.
As am I. Thank you again.